right. Well, welcome back. Today is Tuesday, November 6th of 2024. The time is 6 p.m. Welcome back to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Jenks City Council. My name is Corey Box. I will be your chair this evening. And I believe we have a probably relatively short night, but we will see. So, Mr. Macy, could you please start us off and verify our attendance, sir?
Brown.
Here.
Short.
Here.
Emmons.
Here.
OJ.
Here.
Abel.
Here.
Murray.
Here.
Mayor Box.
Here. Thank you very much. We're going to welcome back Pastor Tommy Davis from New Directions International. Pastor, looks like you got something going on. Why don't you tell us about what you're doing in your church and then lead us to the Lord in prayer, if you would, please.
Yes, good evening to everyone. Before I begin, my son Dylan says hello to you all. He was unable to make it with me tonight. He's usually with me when I'm here on Tuesday nights. He's not feeling well, so y'all keep him in prayer. He's home with mommy tonight, so y'all keep him in prayer. But this coming Sunday, our church will be celebrating 2 years. We are already 2 years old, and it's hard to believe that we started 2 years ago. God has been good to our church and has blessed us tremendously over these past 2 years, and we're going to celebrate our second church anniversary on this coming Sunday morning at 9 a.m. I understand that is a time that conflicts with many of our churches, but we are Sunday morning at 9 a.m. on 111 South 3rd Street here in Jenks, and Apostle Jerome Steele and Bishop Yolanda Steele will be our guest speakers. Souls of Fire, who is a choir from Oral Roberts University, will be our special guest musical group on Sunday morning. So we look forward to what God's going to do on Sunday morning. So if your schedule allows, please come and be a part of this second church anniversary that we're going to have and celebrate, and just thank God for what he's done in New Direction International over the past 2 years. And so, Mayor, thank you for allowing me to share that with you all tonight. So again, if your schedule allows, Sunday morning at 9, come be with us on 111 South 3rd Street here in the city of Jenks. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you so much. Father, we thank you for your goodness and your grace. Thank you, God, for how you've continued to bless not just Jenks, but our nation. And so, Father, we just ask your continued blessings and favor on our nation as a whole, that you continue to lead the way. Bless our local leaders, bless our national leaders as they continue to have vision and to lead this country in the way that we need to go. Father, we thank you for what you have done, not just in Jenks, but all over the country. Thank you for what you're doing right now, and thank you for what you're getting ready to do. We thank you in advance for your goodness that you will continue to give toward us, for your grace and your mercy that you continue to extend toward us, not just here in Jenks, but all over the country. We bless your name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
Yes, sir.
You guys will consider remain standing as we pledge allegiance to our United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we have an animal welfare spotlight tonight. We've got a dog in the back. Good-looking dog, semi-decent-looking guy holding the dog, I guess. Why don't you go ahead and focus on the dog, and
focus on the dog.
Let's get him adopted. How are you, Captain?
So this is Caroline. Caroline's been here once before, but we're getting low on dogs. I'm happy to report that after our dog adoption event at the Outlet Mall, we adopted 6 of our dogs.
Congratulations.
So we're down to just a few. But she's been here once. She's been here for a while. She's been probably 3-4 months with us. Still hadn't found a home, so she's still looking for a home. She's about a 1.5-year-old Belgian Malinois. Pretty well behaved. I learned back there that she knows the command of sit, so that was really good. But anyone who's interested in any of our adoptables, we have a few dogs and a few cats. They can visit our Facebook page at Jenks Animal Welfare, or they're all also on Pet Finder under the City of Jenks, and or they can call the police department 918-299-6311 and set an appointment with one of our animal control officers to meet a dog.
Great. Thank you, Captain.
Yeah.
Good luck, Caroline.
Thank you, guys.
Got any room? Okay, we are going to open the floor to citizen or public comment. If you are here tonight, you'd like to address the council on any item that is not on our agenda, you are welcome to do so. If we can just have your name and address for the record, please. Good evening.
Hello.
Hey, Kristen, how are you?
Good. My name is Kristen Demar, Kristindemar. I live at 727 Lofts, and Mayor Box and Mayor Schrout have already received a few emails from me. But just for those of you who don't know me or haven't met me, I would like to start by thanking you all for your time. And also, when I saw Mayor Box, I was reminded of last time when we were here at the City Council, you ended it by giving a great shout out to our downtown businesses. And I want to emphasize that that is the spirit I'm in here today. I am here with a complaint, but I am here in the spirit of supporting our downtown businesses, supporting Jenks, making this a clean, awesome, safe place to live. So cleanliness is the issue. I'm a resident at 727 Lofts, the little flagship building right when you enter. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. The parking garage is owned by Philcrest Properties and I believe a man named Dennis Daisy. Since we've moved in, I have had nothing but issues trying to clean it. So my first big success was Mayor Box and I worked together to get an abandoned car removed from the roof. He also helped me get the elevators working after they were frozen and inoperable for months. Most recently, they've helped us with some poop pickup, and I apologize that I'm here to talk about poop again, but that's what we're dealing with. And it just seems to be a big quagmire of it's his property, it's private property, but it's public, but it's shared by the residents, it's shared by the businesses. And then I found out yesterday that Mark, the CEO of Vesta Property, told me that him and all of the other business owners actually pay a maintenance fee to Philcrest Properties for this garage. So I also found out from Jenks PD that all of the lights on the 5th floor aren't on, and they said that that is a code enforcement issue. So I'm here as a citizen, not a lawyer, not an engineer, very piecemeal, trying to figure out whose job it is, what's going on. I'm growing increasingly concerned because there's cracks, there's structural integrity cracks, there's walkways that go between the parking garage to 727 Lofts. I live on the 5th floor. A lot of our neighbors up there are seniors. We have disabled people in the building. They complain to us all the time about the conditions, and the cracks are growing larger. So it just seems to me that there's this massive environment of neglect. The one abandoned car has turned into 6 abandoned cars. Like, the one pile of poop has turned into a bunch of piles of poop. I will spare the rest of you from other details that I put in my emails, but I'm here again asking, clearly the property owner has jurisdiction. If we call the police, nothing can be done because there's no trespassing signs, there's no loitering signs, so it's the police come, they talk to the people that hang out there all night, then they all laugh, and then the police leave, and then everyone stays, and they continue trashing the place, and leaving alcohol cans and other items I will not mention because I believe there's children in the room. So I had a nice little five-point outline of an inspection, no trespassing signs, the lights turned on, regular cleaning, and a policy in place to remove the abandoned vehicles. And it seems like only the city can put pressure on the property owner. I have reached out to him myself many times. He won't reply to me, he won't talk to me. He will look at my LinkedIn though, so I know he's paying attention. So I am once again here on election day asking everyone to get rid of the poop. That is my platform for you all, so.
Can I ask her a few questions, yes or no, so to avoid the conversation? None? I drove the garage today. I want you to know my niece was the outgoing general manager and my sister lives in the penthouse. I'll give you some feedback. But you're also a non-smoking facility and your garage is full of cigarettes on every floor. So there's a lot of people breaking a lot of rules. And why
There
a
are.
dog is being walked to the 4th floor makes no sense to me either. So we'll leave it at that. But remember this, it's private property and we are the government. So if you want us to get involved in private property rights, just make sure that you don't mean that someday that could be your private property. So just remember that. We'll avoid the conversation for now, but I was waiting for him to respond to your email before I weighed in. But I've driven it twice in a week, and I don't think the problem's poop, in my opinion. And I have a family that lives there and one that managed it. And I've actually interviewed 4 or 5 people now that live there. The problem isn't the poop.
There are problems with the residents as well, and I think some of
Yeah.
the poop is from the residents. We see them taking their dogs
I'll also
out.
say this, those
So-
little webs, you can come to my backyard. I'm sorry, but
They weren't there when we moved.
we're in Oklahoma.
And the bank
My
is-
backyard is trashed. They're little worms. They're everywhere. They're not spider webs, although those are gone. Those little things, we're not gonna defeat Mother Nature, and I guarantee the city council's not gonna pay to clean somebody's garage for them. I want you to know if you're getting any pushback, but we can talk about it later,
I
but,
just want to say the bank gets pressure washed
Yeah.
quarterly. So the
Okay.
bank is pressure washing their building quarterly. If you go and look at the bank and you go and look at the garage in 727, which are attached,
yeah,
the bank is much cleaner. Like, I understand there's
yeah.
nature and all of that, but this is not that. This is
So
years of
so any
glass.
leverage we have, there's no legal leverage. We're asking for this to be cleaned up because of a relationship, and that is all we have. He and I have a relationship. I think most of us know who owns it. We're asking out of a professional courtesy to be done, but I want you to know at the end of the day, we're not going to overextend ourselves legally and take advice from a city attorney because we've intervened into private property. I just want you to know.
I totally understand that.
Okay.
I do think it's a weird situation though, where it is
Yeah.
private property, but it is shared between an apartment with residents,
Yeah.
a bank with employees,
Yeah.
businesses, and it, like, again, I understand that and then legally, if there's nothing that can be done, and this just is it, that's fine, and I will stop pushing this.
No, it's
But
not-
I don't
it's-
understand when, like, there's feces or, like, things that
Yeah.
could be public health issues. Like, at some point, if I have private property and I decide to trash it, at some point, doesn't the government
Yeah.
say, hey, you need to clean up your land? Like, at what point is it an issue?
I think it needs to be to the point where if you just don't allow dogs to live in an apartment, people let their dogs poop, they don't pick it up. And that is not the government's problem. And unfortunately, it's the problem for everybody who does have to live there that doesn't have a dog. I don't know that the government solves those kind of problems.
What about the structural issues and inspection?
If you want the city to pay for an engineer to go and investigate someone's private property, I don't know that we can do that. But I'm not saying I'm closing the door to the conversation, but if there's some massive safety issue, but a crack in concrete, once again, you come to my house, I'll show you cracked concrete. It's 8 years old.
So it is probably just, the thing with the walkways is that it's shared between the apartments and the garage. I don't
Yeah.
really know who owns the walkways, but what I'm saying is part of that garage is attached to the building.
Well, here's the one thing I do know, last point, that people that own the garage are mechanical engineers. And we do have a relationship with them. And I think he's hoping that we can help solve some of these problems via the relationship.
Right.
Not via the strong arm of the small town government, because we're not. We don't have a strong arm, and he's got constitutional rights, and we're gonna respect them, but at the same time, we also want you and your residents to be happy too, so
Do
we're
we
gonna try
have
to find
any-
that balance.
Do we have any constitutional rights as residents? I mean, that's the thing, like,
I'd be happy, I've given you my cell phone number, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you, and I've talked to the owner last night, this morning, about cleaning up some of the things that you brought up, and so we're trying our best, and, again, I'd be willing to have a conversation with you tomorrow morning about this.
okay,
Yeah.
I just don't think right now is the appropriate time.
Thanks,
okay.
Kristen.
Yep, thanks.
Appreciate it. Anyone else? Public comments? Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Justin Little, 10531 South Koa, Jenks. Tonight, actually, before I even get started, is like what you let off. Tonight's one of my favorite nights every 4 years. So, I don't think I'll get any sleep tomorrow. I'm not sure if that's good for my patients tomorrow morning, but that it will be what it will be. But getting what I came to talk to you, Mayor Box and Council, I sent an email to Mr. Stroud asking what the qualifications required to be on the JADA Advisory Committee were, and what were the reasons for somebody to be either included or excluded on that committee. I've not received a response yet, but we did speak for just a few minutes outside, and I think it actually is going to be relevant to some of my statement based on the conversation he and I had. Because I just sent it to him yesterday, so I understand that he probably hadn't had a chance to get back to us. But I look forward to his response and the city staff's their point of view. But tonight I want to ask, and I understand these are rhetorical questions because, well, maybe we can go back and forth, I don't know. We did just a second ago. But some of the same questions to the city council. What would you guys consider examples of qualifications and expertise that would qualify an individual to be included on that committee? would one be working for a former mayor and a developer whose development resulted in the first successful petition and to overturn a city council's decision in Jenks? Would a qualification be selling weed for that same developer and former mayor? I guess since Jenks is no longer the antique capital, with these type of unique and specific qualifications and expertise, are we to think that the incentives that are going to be given out by JADA in the future will make Jenks now the marijuana capital? Is that what we're looking for? Now, let me ask you what are some reasons that a council would think that an applicant could be disqualified for serving on that committee? Would several judgments for not paying one's own bills be one? Are we not depending on the committee to provide wise and prudent fiscal advice regarding taxpayers' dollars? These are not simply hypotheticals, as this information is easily found online on platforms like OSCN, LinkedIn, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. So my question is, what made the list of candidates that were chosen more attractive than other resumes that were submitted? What is the vetting process in place for this committee to ensure that we have the most qualified people working for Jenks citizens? And this is where I said it could be relevant based on my conversation with Mr. Strout just before we walked in. There's an excerpt from the public statement that I made at City Council in November. It was actually the first November meeting of last year, and I think it's still relevant. And the excerpt was, on May 11, 2023, Mayor Box, you sent an email to city staff, including Ms. Hilton. Also, that included the following. Also, the Ripken experiences also included a commercial component. On September the 7th, 2023, in court, Ms. Hilton was asked about that, and was asked, did anyone make it clear that this PUD was not about commercial development? Her response was, yes, sir. She was then asked, are you the reason that commercial was not part of that proposal? Her response, I am. And then going back to the statement from your email, the Ripken experience has always included a commercial component. We did not agree to donate JPWA land in return for 10 baseball fields. I then went on to say, how can the residents of Jenks be confident in what's happening at City Hall when council is relying on staff's recommendations? And by the statements I've read to you, it's obvious that council and staff are either not on the same page or there is some confusion on the scope of projects being presented to them. I ended my statement that night with a question concerning council. That question was, I'm left wondering, is there a competency issue here or is it an integrity issue? Here we are a year later, and based on the JADA appointments, I'm still left wondering that exact same thing.
Mr. Little, whose competency and integrity are you questioning this evening? And that'll be the only question I ask of you.
I'm questioning the competency or integrity. I don't know what the issue is, which one it is, but of whoever is doing the vetting process to put this committee together.
Okay. Do you have enough information based on what we discussed today to give him a full answer tomorrow, or?
Because Mr. Strout
Okay.
was not even aware that you would put that out. I had to pull your Facebook
It's my
post.
committee.
And
And I can disband it right now if it's going to be a problem. Everything I'm trying to do here is for good. If it's an issue because I have 7 people who didn't get picked, we'll just do away with it, and we'll go back to old school ways. I'm not trying to create a lot of work here. I just, but this is not an integrity problem, and it's not a competency problem. I think it's a misunderstanding of context. This is my committee, and that's only my committee. I'm doing the work, adding transparency. Council wasn't involved.
Okay.
If they want to create an economic development committee on their own, they can. If he wants to create a public safety committee and formalize it, make it different, he can. He's empowered. He can do the same thing, and she can do the same thing based on their skill sets.
so
I'm
you-
not answering your question. The committee has been chosen.
So
These
you can
peop-
violate the rule right now about coming back at me, but I can't come back to you?
Okay, well, the discussion's closed. The committee will be worked out, and the information that comes from it will be made available to the public. There's nothing being hidden here, nothing being
I didn't
hidden
say
last
anything
year.
was I didn't say anything
All
was
right.
being hidden.
Okay,
And I
well-
didn't say anything was being hidden with Ms. Hilton.
This will work better if we're not questioning the competency of the professionals and the integrity of the people that work here that are volunteering. It would go better if we didn't have to hear that for the second time in 2 years.
Well,
I chose
it
the
would be
committee.
better if those, if the competency was not brought into question. If
You
put
brought
some-
it to question,
you're
and I
some-
don't think anybody up here or her thinks that there's a competency problem. I think it's you that thinks there's a competency problem, but I also don't think you have all the information we have. You don't even have the information she has. The bottom line is I picked a committee trying to do the right thing. It's difficult. There's challenges. They didn't necessarily love the idea. We're going to work through it. It's going to be finalized. And those people really pursued it. And 5 of them I don't even know. And I'm not doing background checks. So we're just trying to do the right thing here. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. Yeah, I hear you're on some focus group to deal with noise, but you're not on this one. Thank you for your public comment.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Any other public comments this evening? Good evening, sir. How are you?
Doing all right. How are you?
Doing well.
I wanted to make the council aware that I think we have an issue with stray dogs. I live
Can you
in
start
Lo-
off with your name, sir, and
Oh, sure.
address?
Yes, Neil Ewing. I live at 833 West G Street in Melody Lane, right across the road.
Yes, sir.
A
Thank you.
few weeks back, I drove into the neighborhood, and there was a woman walking her dog, and she was knocked down on the ground by 2 stray dogs. I pulled over, chased the stray dogs away, helped her up, came to the police station, reported it. They said, "That's pretty serious. If you see her, tell her to come to us." I didn't know her. I didn't know where she lived. A couple weeks later, I see her walking her dog. I pulled over, told her. She told me that she did come to the police station and was told that there wasn't anything that they could do, that the pound was full. I was talking with her about it. There are a couple of repeat offenders of neighbors in the neighborhood who just let their dogs roam, and nothing's being done about it. I saw in the Nextdoor app another woman in Jenks posted that she had been attacked by stray dogs. The other day I left for work, I saw 2 dogs running up the street, and I saw animal control behind them yelling out the window, "Go home, go home." That's not taking care of the problem. Someone is going to get hurt. I don't know if these people are being fined for letting their dogs roam free. I don't know if we need to build a bigger shelter, but I'm just letting you know that there's a problem.
Very well. Anything else, Mr. Ewing?
That's it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So when the dogs get adopted, that clears space for the, right? Okay. Okay, good. Anyone else? Public comment? Yes, ma'am. Good evening. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing all right.
My name is Jerry Hall. I live at 11008 Augusta Drive, Jenks, Oklahoma. And I was here on September 17th with my big Constitution poster. Today is Election Day, which has already been discussed. And so, oops, put on my timer. So I just wanted to come, and for the sake of our Constitution, I wanted to proclaim and correct everybody, this is just since we have the opportunity to talk, that our form of government is a constitutional republic, not a democracy. We're not a democracy, we're a constitutional republic. And the Electoral College was established in the Constitution in Article 2, Section 1, Paragraph 2 through 8. And that's what I have to say. So I hope it's okay. I brought a constitution for everybody, and if I may pass it out to thank you for your service. Just didn't want you to think I was reaching into my box for something dangerous, like a constitution.
Sometimes the truth is dangerous.
Thank you. And,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
You don't have that big flag still, do you?
I do. Okay, so that's a minute and 38 seconds. So thank you for your service. For you gentlemen, you can keep it in your coat pocket, and for you ladies, you can keep it in your purse. And I have to admit, I didn't read the Constitution until 5 years ago, and this is my copy, and I have it underlined and dog-eared. And in this little book is the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Articles of Confederation, the Bill of Rights. I'll be back when it's time to talk about the Bill of Rights. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hall. Have a good evening. And anyone else bearing gifts? Please come. Election results. All right. Looks like we are through. We'll go ahead and close the floor to the public, and we will get underway with tonight's agenda, starting with item number 1, which is our general consent agenda. So consideration and appropriate action relating to, if anyone from council would like to motion for approval of these items, you may. If not, you can recommend we pull one for further discussion. It's up to you guys.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a proper motion and a second to approve our consent agenda. Let's vote, please.
Brown.
Yes.
Short.
Yes.
Emmons.
Yes.
Ogier.
Yes.
Abel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes, thank you, sir. Moving on to item 2, which we will pull. Moving on to item 3, ordinance number 1656 related to Jenks zoning 24 PUD 127 major amendment number 1, amending planned unit development 127 to approve major amendment number 1, repealing all ordinances or parts thereof in conflict herewith, providing for severability and declaring an emergency. The general location is 126th Street at Harvard. We're on page 85 if you have a packet and you're following along. Mrs. Hilton or council.
Mr. Mayor, if I could jump in on this. This particular item was reviewed by the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission rejected the application. And one of the things that I think we have to be cautious about as a council is overriding the Planning Commission when they make recommendations. And I noted in the packet that there were a number of major revisions made to what's been presented to us in this particular agenda compared to what was presented to the Planning Commission. I think it would be wise for us at this point, I think when we're looking at things that are presented here versus the Planning Commission, we need to compare apples with apples. And I don't want to override the Planning Commission without a thorough review. And while I don't want to push the developers or the owners of this particular application back, I would like to make a motion that we continue this to the next meeting. That way we can thoroughly evaluate the revisions that have been made between the Planning Commission and now. It appears on a cursory review that the revisions that have been offered were closer to what was originally presented, which is favorable, but I think it would behoove us to push it back. So I'm making an official motion to continue this to the next meeting.
Okay, second.
Okay, we have a proper motion, a second. Any debate on the motion?
I agree with
Murray?
what you're saying, Councilor Brown, and we have overturned or voted against the Planning Commission on things passed. But I agree that if we need more time, we need to look at it. But will the next meeting of the City Council give Planning Commission planning time to look at it? Okay, so that would be the key, is that they don't have time to look at it to make a different recommendation. Would you be open to maybe another meeting after they have a chance to revise it?
I think if we have a thorough review of it, we can look at it to determine whether or not we should decide on it or if we should send it back to the Planning Commission.
Yeah, and the Planning Commission saw a different project than what we're seeing tonight, so it's a little bit odd. The timing is a little bit interesting. The Planning Commission's next meeting is likely to be rescheduled, maybe?
It would follow the second
Yeah.
council meeting anyway.
Yeah, so we're not necessarily recommending that we put it back to the Planning Commission, as that would further delay
We can always
project.
put it back to the planning
We
commission.
can, but we don't necessarily
Later,
need to.
if we continue it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
fine.
need- I was open to this only because of the fact that I needed more time to go through it. And I mean, it is in our ward, but it's just the fact that there was such a difference from what they presented to what it was today, that I felt like I needed some additional information. We can also talk to the planning commission between here and there, which would give us plenty of time. So that's
No,
kind of my.
Yeah, I agree. I just, the way he was wording it, I just didn't know if it was based on them having an opportunity to look at it, but no,
Just a
that's fine. More
Motion to
time is
continue,
fine.
and then when we bring it back up before council, then we
Okay.
can decide whether we vote on it or whether we send it back.
Right, pull it.
So you don't have no debate on the motion itself, you just wanted to make a point? Is that true? Yeah.
Clear.
Okay,
just
okay,
for
understood.
clarity.
All right. So any other further debate on the motion? Okay, we have a proper motion and a second for the continuation of item number 3, ordinance 1656. Let's vote, please.
Brown.
Yes.
Short.
Yes.
Emmons.
Yes.
Ogier.
Yes,
Abel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes, thank you. Item 4, obviously, emergency clause, we will.
not do it.
Yep, moving on to item number 5. Item 5 is the awarding of a contract for construction of Phase 1 widening of Elm Street. This is exciting news. Wow, you guys can't leave. This is it. This is the big road. Come back. Okay, that's fine. This is what we've been dying to hear for, okay, all right, let me get my composure back. Thought this is why we're all here. All right, item 5. Award a contract for construction of Phase 1 widening of Elm Street from 111th to 121st Street and the 116th Street Trail east of Elm in the total amount of $9,117,017.68 to Paragon Contractors out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Funding is to be paid from the 2020 general obligation bonds, also known as account number 278405393. We are on page 121 if you're following along. Bill, and we welcome Mr. Carr for the first time this evening. How are you, sir?
I am great.
Tell us how great it's going to be for the next 2 years.
Well, it's not actually 2 years.
Is it more? Wait a minute.
It's less.
Oh, there you go.
Well, it might be more when you do Phase 2.
Under promise and over deliver.
The original project that we're talking about right now was from 111th to 131st Street. We were able to acquire right-of-way in the 111th to 121st Street faster than the other segment going to the south. So it was suggested that we divide these into 2 different projects. And it costs a little bit more to put the engineering documents together, but we could get the north segment of this under construction a little faster than the south segment. We will probably see Phase 2 come along shortly after the first of the year, the calendar year. I don't expect it'll be too much longer before we'll have it out for bid also. But when, also during the engineering, Tulsa County Commissioner came to us and asked about building a trail from Elm Street east to about where the end of the church property is, maybe a little bit further to the east. And we opted to add that into this project also, since it was all connecting the trails together. So that was somewhat of an add-on to the project also. But when the bids were put together in the construction documents, we have the Phase 1 widening part from 111th to 121st, and then we also had the second segment of that for the 116th Street Trail. So those bids were opened on October 24th, and a tabulation of bids is attached to your memo. You might see, if you look at that tabulation, you'll see that there are some highlighted numbers in there. Paragon, when they put their bid together, they had some incorrect numbers that they presented. But when you looked at those and compared them to the other contractor that bid on this, unfortunately, there were only 2 contractors that bid. We were really expecting a few more than that. But the corrected bid amounts for Paragon was still less than what the other bidder was presenting. So Paragon was still the apparent low bidder. So those corrected bid amounts were used in the tabulation, and when the numbers were compared to what the engineer's estimate was for the probable cost of construction, Paragon was 7.15% higher than the engineer's estimate. And I also included in their bid, both of them bid 450 days, which was specified in the construction documents also. That's why I say it was just a little over a year. But the 2020 GO bond election that was approved by the voters had a total of $16 million in for this project. And the current balance is $14,670,000. So we have sufficient funds available to do this project. If anticipating going through all of the paperwork after you award this bid, we expect that construction would probably start around the first of the year in January 25. So the target date of completion would be in the spring of 2026. Anticipating also beyond that we will probably have phase 2 going on at the same time. Hopefully we can compress both of those into the same timeline, since phase 2 is a little bit shorter than phase 1 is in terms of distance. So we're requesting that you award the contract of construction of phase 1 widening of Elm Street, 111th to 121st, and the 116th Street Trail east of Elm, in the total amount of $9,117,017.68 to Paragon Contractors, and funding to be paid from the 2020 GO bond. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try and give you an answer.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Any questions on my right? Mr.
No
Brown?
question, just a couple of quick observations, thinking about our widening, or not the widening, but the repaving of Main. If we can begin, if we approve this, begin communicating with the public to give them some timeframes so that they can properly plan for, what to expect with traffic. Also being very sensitive to any businesses that might be along this section that would be under construction. And then also for our city attorney, I know that we won't be dealing with any state change orders, but if we can take a close look at the contract to potentially anticipate, if we look at things that could bog the process down, if we have to come back with any fiscal changes, if there's a way to expedite that within the contract so that we don't have to go through any delays like we did with the main, that would be beneficial. That's my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Council, Mr. Murray?
Just the statement you made that the second phase is a shorter distance. It's still a mile distance.
Well, this project actually goes a little bit to the south of the intersection at 121st.
Okay.
I think it goes to like 123rd or something, like right by that.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
want to make sure we weren't getting stuck on that 125th. That's what I wanted, just making sure. Thank you.
No, we're never going to forget the day you and Donna.
We did.
And we're not going to forget.
We were to 123rd or 125th, we were like,
Everybody out there will be thanking you both. Good point. Anyone else on council? Gentlemen? All right. If there's no more questions for Mr. Carr, we can entertain a motion to approve.
I would like to make a motion that we approve this request to spend the $9.1 million to Paragon Contractors.
Second.
Thank you. We have a proper motion and a second on item 5. Let's vote, please.
Brown? Yes?
Short,
Yes.
Emmons,
Yes.
OJ,
Yes.
Abel,
Yes.
Murray,
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes, thank you. Item 6 is award a contract for construction management and laboratory services for Phase 1 widening of Elm Street 111th to 121st and the 116th Street Trail east of Elm in an amount of $566,826 to Standard Engineering and Testing Services out of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Funding will be paid from the same 2020 general obligation bond funds, same account number as referenced earlier. We are on page 128. Mr. Carr.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Although we do have that project awarded now, we've got to be able to be sure that it's being built according to the specifications. And there's a lot of different things that are involved in administering a construction contract. I know we've got good staff here at working for the city, but it's a little beyond our expertise. So we looked at some firms in the area that could provide the appropriate expertise, and I've listed some of the things that they would be doing in your memo. And I think a little bit of clarification on why we haven't asked for something like this in the past is that most of the big road projects that we've been doing here were ODOT-funded projects. And ODOT provided the construction administration. They did all of these things. We're doing this one on our own. So it's something that was really necessary to find a company that had the expertise. We talked to 4 different firms and asked them for their qualification statements and proposed scope of work. And after we explored different ways of, we had thought that maybe we could have provided somebody from our staff to help them to reduce the amount of work that they would have to do if we could step in at various times. But it became obvious that it was a little difficult to find a firm that would be able to do that because they want to hire somebody and unless they had other projects that person could go to, then it was very difficult to be able to split their time. Based on the interviews we had and the evaluation of man hours and travel expenses and projected laboratory testing costs, Standard Engineering and Field Services was requested to provide a detailed proposal. And they provided that, which is attached to your memorandum also. And when we evaluate that, it would be divided into 2 separate areas. One was for construction management, for providing an inspector, construction manager, and resident engineer. And then the other part was to provide the laboratory services that are necessary. We want to be sure that the materials that are being used are the correct materials, they're at the proper densities, the type of concrete that is used, that it's tested properly also. So out of the 4 firms that we had discussions with, Standard Engineering and Field Services was the only one that actually had an in-house laboratory, which was even better, I believe, because then they have total control over all of it. When we add up all the costs for that, it came to a little over $566,000, which was a little surprising to our staff because we thought maybe we could do it a little bit cheaper, but everybody else was higher, so we got a pretty good price. Their agreement, the pricing for this is not to exceed costs. Hopefully we'll find that there may be some ways of having some economy during the construction and be able to drop some of these costs. So again, since there was some money left even after the construction award, there's still enough money to pay for this also in the bond issue. And as an aside, though, I'm beginning to start to think that maybe when we get to phase 2, that we may come a little short on the overall bond issue, but we'll talk about that when we get those bids in and see where we're going. But we're also going to have construction services for that project too. So we'll have some more to talk about once we get that bid out. But we're recommending award to standard engineering and testing services and being paid under the bond issue. If you've got any questions, Randall White is here from Standard, and you may know his name from in the past. He was our district engineer for ODOT, so I believe he and his staff are very qualified to do provide these services, these professional services.
Mr. White didn't want to work for the government anymore, huh?
I had 40 years in.
All right, I got you. So, Mr. Carr, this is nothing more than a professional services contract?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Carr from council? Mr. Emmons?
No questions, just being very familiar with the construction industry. This is better than a good idea. It may be expensive, but we need to do this.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Brown?
Yeah, just a quick question. I know we've done a number of projects like this. Are we establishing some benchmarking then for the future where we can look at this portion of this particular project compared to past, just to see moving forward where we can project? I noted your comment about we might run short on phase 2. So if we've got some benchmarking from past projects to see how this lines up with what would have been done, say by ODOT in the past, just for this piece.
I don't think he
I
does,
think-
by the look on his face.
I think you're talking,
I'm not sure I have
You're
followed you, but
you're talking about
Yeah,
the
I'm
I'm not
cost.
sure it's apples to apples.
Yes, cost
Yeah.
benchmarking on
Yeah,
like
and I
cost
think
per
that,
mile, that kind of thing.
just a reminder that, it was, the vote for the GO bond was scheduled for April of 2020. It got moved back because of COVID to August 2020. It was approved by the voters, $20.5 million, I think 17 of which was to go to this project. And so then no one knew what was going to happen during COVID, but the costs of materials and labor went up significantly. And so I think that we did have good cost estimates at the time. And I think that anyone that is a developer or building things, especially infrastructure, there's been cost increase over the last 4 years. And so I think what we've seen and what Mr. Carr is frequently monitoring and talking to other city officials and ODOT and OTA is that to a certain extent, things have kind of leveled off. And so maybe we can use this as a barometer. But I would say that, to my knowledge, there's still some issues related to this mile of widening complications that we don't necessarily have on the south mile. We have different complications, but there's a lot of stormwater complications on this mile and a lack of right-of-way on this mile. And so I think that we can take it into an account, take this mile into an account. I'm optimistic, and so I think that either the south mile is going to be less expensive because there aren't the stormwater issues, or staff will have a solution to any shortfall issue at that time.
Crystal? Okay. Gentlemen, Mr. Short?
I just want to concur with Mr. Emmons. I think this is a fantastic idea. I think given the size and scope of this project, and this is a big one for the whole city, I think this is a really good idea.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Short. I would agree. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Card? Anybody have a question for Standard engineering. All right, we can do, we can entertain moving on if you'd like.
I move to approve number 6 is written.
Second?
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a proper motion and a second to approve item 6. Let's vote, please.
Brown.
Yes?
Short.
Yes.
Emmons.
Yes.
OJ.
Yes.
Abel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
Mayor Box.
Yes. Moving on to other business. Mr. Shroud, any pertinent information you'd like to share tonight on election night?
I know, you have a report in front of you with some updates on some of our projects and events coming up. I would just like to say that, you know, we had drought conditions for much of October. The fire department was dealing with burn bans, and now we've kind of totally flipped and gone the other direction. I think that Barry and the public works crews have done an amazing job over the last weekend with the severe weather we've had. I know that the police department and the fire department have been working diligently as well, and so I just really thank Public Works, police, and fire, our first responders, for getting out there in the middle of the night and dealing with these issues. And you know, I think sometimes, like, man, I'm waking up at 4 in the morning, but Barry and his crew is waking up at 4 in the morning to go out and deal with all this stuff. So I really thank those men and women that do that.
Yeah, let me say thanks to Barry. I mean, I got text messages from people, because I give out my number, sending me pictures of the water, and then your giant little pumps and your big hoses shooting water all down the street, calling, saying, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm like, hey, I didn't do it. The heroes out there in the cold. So Melody Lane seems to be Melody Lane. There's no melodies being sung in the rain, I guarantee you, but I appreciate you guys being out there. Those bar ditches look nasty and ugly, but I hope your Monday evening meeting went well. I was in Boston, couldn't attend, but hopefully you guys got some good feedback. And tell the guys again, there's no way we can ever thank them enough. So thank you. Any other closing comments before we close?
Got a quick question.
Yes, sir,
for
Mr. Short.
Stroud. Do we have a sense of when we will start to know or get a sense of the impact on sales tax from the outlet mall?
So we get the sales tax numbers usually 5 business days after the beginning of the month. And so for September, and then it's kind of weird how it works, because we get half of the month and then they estimate the next 15 days. And so we saw a significant increase in our October collection because we were seeing the September the August 15th to August 30th, we were seeing those numbers and estimates for September 1st to September 15th. And I think we should see sales tax numbers, hopefully by the end of the week, that would really give us a full picture from August 15th to September 15th. But it increased significantly.
The good news is the sales tax check reimbursement from July 13th to August 15th, 1 month prior to the mall opening, was the largest in the city's history.
Without the mall.
There is no Simon in that equation. So, and if you look back at the last 24 months, I would say 18 and 19 of those are all record-breaking months. So it's just record-breaking month after month. So I think we're all can expect the same optimism that we had before.
Well, I think we're all optimistic. I'm just kind of curious what the timing was, so you've answered my question. Thank you.
And so basically I spent more time than I needed to say. We don't have everything right now, but it's increasing significantly, and we'll have the full numbers probably by the end of the week, and we can email those out.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else, council? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and for the sake of time, I don't have anything pertinent to pass on, but so I will punt on the mayor's report. We have 5 minutes left if you need to run across the street and vote. Otherwise, we will call it 6:55 and the city council meeting is adjourned. Okay, moving on, roll call, Jenks Public Works Authority.
Brown.
Here.
Short.
Here.
Emmons.
Here.
Ogier.
Here.
Abel.
Here.
Murray.
Here.
Chairbox.
Here, thank you. Item number 1 is our consent agenda. Anyone on council have any concerns, questions A through G? If not, let's make a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you very much. We have a proper motion and a second on our consent agenda. Let's vote, please.
Brown.
Yes?
Short.
Yes.
Emmons.
Yes.
Ogier.
Yes.
Abel.
Yes.
Murray.
Yes.
Chairbox.
Yes, sir. Item number 2, as a result, will be pulled. Mr. Shrout, last call.
The report is in your packet. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Last call for council.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Brown.
Just a quick, I don't know if you wanted to make a reference to the Veterans Day celebration coming up.
Yeah, did she leave? She did leave. What time does it start? Thank you, Chief. I should know that I'm speaking, but I have 3 speaking engagements this week. I'm kind of confused. 11 a.m., Veterans Park. Yeah. We'll be rededicating the Never Forget Garden. Hopefully people will come out and see the Honor Garden, Purple Heart Garden, Barry Parsons Garden, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Hey, man, all it was this. You put the heart in it, and that's what matters. It just came from my head. You guys are the artists. So we hope if you're in town and the weather's good, come out and honor Jenks veterans. We are very smart when it comes to these things. We're looking at 30 minutes. We're not going to be playing taps and singing songs for an hour or two and having people fall over, but standing at attention. That's not a good way to spend the weekend. So for the veterans that are out there, thank you for your service. We appreciate y'all very much. Time is 6:57. We are adjourned.